Another thing was, I watched, the YouTube video of the Caleb, uh, DVD, Become Jehovah's Friend, that the fucking Watchtower decides to put out. Start to attack, more of the weaker part of the organization, and it just, though it was funny and but it was so eerie. It was very eerily familiar, of the mirror that's up in my childhood. And you know, as you get older, you try to push it back, and you know, like they tell you, oh, it's not a big deal, you'll get over it and stuff. I'm finding that you don't ever get over it. When I was 14 years old, and I think I mentioned this in another video about certain things of what was discouraged, I was into a band called Silverchair. For those who are really into music, you should know that band. I didn't have many friends in school. This was in middle school. 7th grade, I had a friend that for Christmas, or I think it was was it for Christmas? No, it was for my birthday. She had gotten me, you know, because I loved the band so much, you know, I wanted to get, I think that was my first major album that I wanted to get. She got me I had a cassette player. I didn't have, we were poor. We did back then, you know, CD players were still relatively expensive. So all I had was a stereo cassette player. She had gotten me the cassette of Silverchair, their first album. And it was like the best gift. The joy of just having something in your hands that you really enjoy and love. As a young kid, that it's, you know, yeah, again, growing up, I didn't have much. Didn't have much of anything. We were lucky to even have a Nintendo, Super Mario in there. But, you know, I had Silverchair, I had the cassette. Of course, I wasn't smart enough to kind of hide it away from my aunt and grandmother at the time. They were living with my mom. And they wanted to hear it, and I said no. I wasn't smart enough to hide those stuff then. Later on during the year, around Christmas time, I had another friend get me the Red Hot Chili Peppers One Hot Minute album on cassette. And around that time, my grandfather was staying with my mom. My mom had people stay at her house all the time. We never had the house to ourselves. And when you're in a Jehovah's Witness family, I hated it. I'm going to say it right now, I hated it. I couldn't be myself. The house wasn't a home. Which I guess explains why I've been retreating in my head, going to La La Land half of the time when I was a kid, because I couldn't really deal with all that shit. You know, when you're a teenager, you go through phases, and I guess, and you know, I guess looking back on it now, I had a lot of issues. didn't want to go to school. I was suicidal. I wasn't happy. I think that's when I started really threatening to kill myself and feeling that, and of course, back then, instead of, them trying to address the issue or them trying to find some sort of help, they of course blamed it on the music I was listening to. Of course, they blame anything that has some credence. And my grandfather was the one that instigated to throw my tapes and stuff away. Took away my stereo. They never thought that me acting out, crying and having a temper or anything could have been caused by other issues or other problems. Of course, my mom thought she, was doing the right thing back then, but my mom was always a follower. She never thought on her own. And again, that's part of the whole cult indoctrination, because she was born in, my family is a good 3 generations Jehovah's Witness. My brother and I would be the 4th. And the anger, the depression, all respect I had for my grandfather went out the window that day. I hated him. Until this day, I still do. I didn't even want to go to his funeral. And that was when I was at age 21, when he died. I guess I say about 10 years, yeah. From then on, I vowed never to say anything. If I got something, it was going to be hidden. Everything was going to be hidden. My dad, of course, Mom and Dad were divorced. My dad never agreed with that stuff, but you know what? He never was in my life to begin with half the time. He never called. Every time I called and cried to him wanting to leave, he said he couldn't do it. I hated it. And I think what scares me is, till this day, I still have this deep-seated anger and resentment towards my family. And now that I'm older and I found out that everything that I was raised with was just total bullshit, was all lies, and they of course still don't see it, but I do now because of the internet. It gets me even more angry. It leaves you empty. Because everything you would love or ever be interested, you have to second guess it. And I think for those of you who've been raised in this, and a shout out to Karen, stepfordescapee, I know you've been going through that too. This is, those feelings eat you up. And I know this because, and I know, and the witnesses are oblivious. Either they're oblivious to it or they deny it themselves. I made a comment on one of the videos for the new Caleb. I think it was lesson 2 of how he becomes Jehovah's friend. When he was made up to give up that toy Sparlock. That hit home. And it's just an object, but It's more than that. There was a Jehovah's Witness on that channel that started commenting and saying that, you know, oh, we love Satan and we love all this stuff. And I tore his ass to shreds. I sent comments. I replied to him. I didn't let anything back. I had this anger. And I know it's not right. I know you have all the, you know, Christians out there or born again Christians, whatever, say that's not the case. But you really don't understand. Or some of you do who've been in there. But I was angry. Angry. And I think ever since then, ever since that day, you know, at age 14, I just went along with whatever they said, you know. I got baptized at the age of 18. I guess, you know, between my mid to late teens, you know, I thought at one time maybe they were right. I wanted to do the right thing, and I thought at that time that was the right thing. I genuinely thought. It was the only world I had. Most kids at 18, they're in college, they have their own cars, they got a job. I didn't have any of that. I had nothing. Except my imagination, and believe it or not, and this is one thing I do thank my dad, video game consoles. He was always the one that bought the video game consoles. I think out of everything we had owned, that was the one thing, I guess, that was my escape. That was my escape. Even as a witness, around 2000, at 18 I got baptized, at 19, I'm at 18, you know, I mean, we had a PlayStation for the first time, my brother and I hogged up the PlayStation more than my brother did. It was an escape, like books. Those were other objects I had to hide. I guess I'll talk about the book part in in another video. Because that was when I started to mentally cut off a lot of things. But when I started to go to technical school, I went at 18 for administrative assistant. Well, at 17, 18 for administrative assistant, and then went back for web design at 19, where I met my best friend Jacqueline. And that's another story. I think I'll save that for another video on that. But I for those people out there that are studying with witnesses, please, you know, there's no excuse. You have the internet, or there's ways to get to an internet source. Do your research on Jehovah's Witnesses and what they believe. Go to outside secular sources. Do not take their word for it. It's coming to a point, it's coming to a time where they can't hide anymore. In fact, they can't hide now, because half of this stuff is exposing the bullshit. It's too late for my family. Oh, maybe it's not. I'm not sure. Most of my family has already been sucked in. They've been in it too long. And even if they had shreds of doubt, I think some of them I think do, they're too scared to admit it. I'm getting to the point right now where I honestly don't care whether they find these videos or not. It's not like they call and check up on me. They don't talk to me much anyway. think my biggest fear is ending up alone and not having anyone to turn to, though that's also a load of crap because I'm staying with my best friend Jacqueline that I've known for over 10 years and who has changed my life. And I have so much thanks to give to her and her family. But I want to thank everyone out there for tuning in and listening. And I'll talk to you guys next time.